This program is brought to you by thepodcastfactory.com.
You are listening to Copy Chief Radio. Today, I have with me two cool dudes from Copy Chief, Mr. Kevin Rogers and Mr. Ross. Ross, I don't know how to say your last name. O'Loughlin?
Yeah, O'Loughlin, you nailed it.
Oh, how about that? So, Kevin, over to you, my friend.
Thank you, brother. Yeah, man. Another fun episode. Always great to have Ross on. And I'll tell you, man, so much I admire about Ross. One of the things he's taught me a lot about is how to be more organized and productive. And so I thought it'd be cool to have Ross on to share, something he's not known for, but is really good at. And so, Ross, thanks for coming on, brother, and help us with some of your productivity tips.
Happy to do it, man. Productivity is like one of my nerdy passions that I don't get to talk about all that much, but which kind of gets me kind of excited. So let's do this.
That's like when I go into Office Depot or one of these, office supply stores, and I'm just like, ooh, I geek out. It's like, ooh, pens and notepads. Yeah. So you're an engineer, right? And so you think you were drawn to become an engineer for reasons like that? I mean, is it a stereotype to say that engineers are organized people or think in organized ways?
Yes and no. Like when you're living or training to be an engineer, like you do, you do have to be somewhat organized. But some of the most disorganized people I know are engineers. So it's to an extent, yes, but I wouldn't say that every engineer I know would be organized or productive.
Yeah, you don't walk into their house and they got like a Rube. What's that thing? The
Rubik's Cube?
No, not the Rubik's Cube. No, the other one, the Rube Goldberg or whatever. The thing where you set up dominoes and it knocks down this and then it swings.
Yeah, no, definitely not. That's all just a delusion and a fantasy.
All right. See, we're ending all kinds of stereotypes and racism on the show. We tackled race last week, and now we're talking about what the engineers are dealing with, these false assumptions. All right. So we're here for the people. Ross, yeah. So, man, have at it, bro. I know you got a list, and give us like your faves. And again, this is really important for copywriters because we live for distraction. I know I always did. It's like, man, something, please come by and give me an excuse to not have to discipline myself to stay in this chair and finish this draft. So tell us what works for you, man.
Yeah. So like I'll start off by saying, productivity and being organized is in itself a huge competitive advantage, especially over other copywriters, because you can attest to this, Kev. Like writers in general aren't the most organized, productive people if we're kind of looking back on stereotypes, right? But you look at like some of the most successful writers out there in any field, and they are exceptionally organized, right? And they are exceptionally productive. Like there's one quote I think by Stephen King, and he's like, the difference between amateurs and professionals, that professionals just get down and get to it, right? And I'd say to that point, I'd add to it that when they get down to it, they know what they're doing. They're not just sitting down and saying, well, I guess I got to get some work done here, and then they're noodling around for 4 hours. Like they have a plan in front of them, and they're going to do it. So, I look at productivity and I look at it from kind of, a couple of aspects. Number one is, you know what you're going to be doing, right? Like you have a plan, whether that's like a daily plan or a weekly plan. You know ahead of time what has to get done. And then the second part of it is just managing your distractions, right? If you have a list of things to get done and you can sit down and actually get them done, without having other things intrude into your life, you're going to be, 10 times more productive than someone that hasn't got those two basic things. And those are two of the the main, kind of pillars that I've kind of built my productivity around. And I think the main point that we were chatting about, that kind of prompted this discussion to come up, was actually the distraction management, right?
Yeah.
Like we've talked about it when we've kind of been, working together in the same room as well as digitally, that like these days as a writer, you have to be in your computer, right? Like very few people will use like a typewriter. And I was baffled when I came down to meet you in Florida and you actually got out a paper pad, a yellow paper pad and a pencil, and you started writing up by hand. And I was like, what are you doing, Kev?
What is that thing? Yeah. Yeah, I can only be productive. Like when it's time to write, I'll wake up that day and I don't even go near the computer. I'm just looking for that yellow legal pad and that pen and a quiet place to drink some coffee. And I know I'll get the full draft out that way. But man, if there's a blinking light or something else to click, I'll be there.
Yeah, exactly, right. It's those distractions that are just constantly coming at you. And, I would be much more, on the digital side of things, not quite a millennial, but just on the way into that era where, pretty much all my work, throughout my academic career and whatnot was all pretty much done, on computers. So for me, what I found really effective is to look for ways to automate the distractions out of your life, right? Like people talk about these apps that you can have where you can block certain websites, and those are great until you forget to turn them on.
Yeah.
Right? And then it's like 2 hours go by and you're like, I sat down here at, 9, 10 o'clock and now it's lunchtime. And what have I really done apart from checked a few emails and done this and done that and responded to this? And, your day has gotten away from you when you sat down with really good intentions to actually get work done. So, what I've looked to do is there's a great tool called Freedom.to. This is the one that I've used lately, and it's like the be all and end all of what I've been looking for. And what it allows you to do is like schedule blocks of your day, and you can choose which websites should be blocked during those times. And then on top of that, you can apply it to your phone and to your iPad or whatever device that you have. And this has been huge for me. I've used other versions of this before in the past, but this one extends to your smart devices, which, I really like because, you carry your smartphone around with you the whole time, and it's basically the world's most successful distraction device, right? There are entire companies that have been built around keeping you distracted on your smartphone. So, what I'll do is I'll just go on in there and schedule and say, okay, yeah, between 9 a.m. or 8 a.m. and 6 p.m. I'm not able to access Facebook, YouTube, any of what I call your distraction portals. Right? Your distraction portals are those websites that your brain will reflexively just go to and type the URL into the URL bar without you even realizing it. And before you know it, in that slight moment, the slight window that was there, has gone to distract itself. So I just keep track of what those are and have them on a block list. And then during the day, I just can't access them on any device.
Interesting. And it's just a simple, for levity here, just some proof that being less distracted doesn't make you more efficient. On freedom.to right now, it is, as we record this, July 26th, and they still have their July 4th coupon code working. So it says celebrate July 4th, save 40% today. So that's kind of funny. I had to point that out. But all right, very cool. And so, and this helps you. Yeah. I mean, you literally can't get in. You can't get past this thing. Like, what if there's an emergency and, somebody says, please check my Facebook message because if it doesn't get responded to by noon, we lose, $20,000.
Yeah. So I would say, that's never going to happen. But, realistically, what I have is I don't block the messenger. So I'm still able to get messages. But like for me, just from studying the way I interact with Facebook, the biggest time suck, for example, there is the news feed and then the notifications. And the notifications, you never get notified for anything or anything important, really. So that's where you can spend all the time just going down that rabbit hole. So that's primarily what I block out, and also do videos, because we all have gone down that rabbit hole more than once, where let me just click on what this one video is, and then before you know it, you're
dude, I
10 trees over.
Yeah. How about when you go to Facebook for a reason, like to answer a message or something, right? And you're 30 minutes later, I'll close the app, disgusted with myself, and then go, oh crap, I went there for a reason. I had to do something, and and we've read articles and there's been studies how, Facebook is deliberately addicting, for the same reason that slot machines have become, the biggest problem in gambling for people. It's just that interaction, that immediate reward loop of interaction. You think about it, it's not unlike a slot machine where you put some credits in, you hit the button, you watch the thing spin, and you either win or you lose. And you just, you see people in casinos just sitting there with a cigarette dangling out of their mouth, just tapping that. They don't look like they're having any fun at all. It's just like they're programmed to be in this loop. And it's not unlike, especially with notification. I hate I always turn off all notifications just because I don't appreciate having my attention stolen away, right? But Facebook is the same thing. I mean, I still as guilty as anybody of, you start this conversation and it's an open loop. You want to see, has there been progress on this thing, or did anybody care about that thing I posted? And it's the same thing as the slot machine. You're the act of hitting the button, logging in, and you're either a winner because somebody said something cool or liked your stuff, or you're a loser because nobody did, or somebody had something negative to say. So it's a very addictive loop that they've created for us.
Oh, 100%. And like, there's a great book on this, like The Power of Habit, which we've talked about, and that's exactly what it is. It just becomes a habit, and you've been programmed, whether you like it or not, to go back looking for that hit, that little, what's the result? What's that game? Did I win? Did I lose? And even though I have built these automations where I can't access things during the week, I also have it set up that I can't get my emails on my phone throughout the weekend now as well, because I'm like, there's no need for me to get reading my emails over the weekend. I'm not going to do anything with them. But I still catch myself taking my phone out and checking my emails on the weekend. The behavior is so ingrained that I would do it, and then I'll see, my emails aren't coming through because I don't get them, and I put the phone back in my pocket. Or I'll catch myself going to Facebook during the day. Like, I'll go to the URL bar and type in FAC, hit enter as it auto-populates the bar, and then it says blocked. And I'm like, okay, well, I guess I've had something else to do. What else have I got to do? And that moves on to the second part of it, which is, have a list of things that you need to get done. And things that you have planned out that you should actually be getting done for the day and for the week. And a lot of people have to-do lists day to day, and I absolutely think that's a fantastic thing. But a good friend of both of ours, April Dykman, actually put me on to what's known as the Productivity Planner, which I really like. And what it is it's the principle of writing down things that need to get done, but then ranking them in order of importance, right? And then doing the most important thing first, right? Which is often the hardest thing. Because what I would do is I used to write things down on a little 4x6 card, and I'd write out maybe 7 or 8 things to do for the day. And then what I would do is I'd start checking off the easy ones first, right? Like reply to this email, call this person. I'm like, oh yeah, that'll just take me 5-10 minutes. I'll get these out of the way, and then I go on to the hard stuff, right? And then I would just start scratching those off, and I would feel like I'm making progress because I'd have eliminated half the items on my to-do list. But the other half would be the actual important things that needed to actually get done, the things that were going to be the main thing for the day. And since I've kind of started that practice, I've seen a big upswing in just the stuff that I get done. The big wheels get moved as opposed to just moving and greasing the little gears around the side.
Right. And is that, where can I see that? That's not a digital thing. That's a
no, that's an actual physical book. It's called the Productivity Planner. If you go to productivityplanner.com, that's where it was recommended to me by April, who when I was going through a period where my productivity had taken a hit just because there was a lot of stuff going on in my own life. She was like, "This is something that really helped me kind of get back on track."
Cool. It's not. Oh, I'm missing an I in there. All right, productivityplanner.com.
He's
cool.
distracted.
I'm like a little monkey. You got. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yeah, you told me about this, and it's always, because I always feel like I can just pull out a piece of paper and do that. But you find having the book get you. Are you in the habit now of just filling out this book every day?
Yeah, and it's like I think, and I'm like, well, what is the most important thing that I have to get done? And I put that down the bone. What I'll often do is I'll actually brainstorm out on a piece of paper all the things that I need to get done today, and then I'll rank them and put them in the book in that order. So like it's like the book is not necessarily the important part. It's like the principle that they teach at the front of the book, which is, I'm not sure who said it, but like the main thing is keeping the main thing the main thing. And if you can do that, you'll make way more progress than people that are, keeping busy and doing a lot of work but not really getting stuff done, which is the big challenge.
Interesting. Yeah. I know John Lee Dumas had a huge hit with his Freedom Journal, which was kind of like this, but a long-term thing. What do you decide what your big goal is, and you make progress every day towards it, And so I think these ideas of and just journaling in general is super important. Just getting offline and having a pen and paper aspect to your day, and especially as a way to track. Ross, you and I have both done task audits. That was recommended to me from James Schramko, and that's always really helpful to me. And that's where you just simply write down every little thing you do all day, because we just don't realize how many things we're doing in a day. Little things come up, and we're like, so let me take care of that right now and tick that off. And that's why by 3 p.m, I'm mentally exhausted, just because I don't realize how many little things I've devoted some brain to. Yeah. And it really is a difficult discipline to do these things. So, all right, cool. Yeah. What's next?
Yeah. So kind of you touched on it there with the John Lee Dumas thing, which is like having a big picture, right? And then tying your day-to-day activities to that big picture. What I found really, really effective, in just guiding me and keeping me on track in making that, building up the skills and then being able to make the transition to full-time freelance copywriter was doing out this, exactly that. Like, what are my large, long-term goals? What does that look like 5 years from now, 4 years from now, 3 years from now, 2 years from now, next year, 6 months, next month, right? And like you kind of chunk those goals backwards, right? And then what you do is you do a weekly review. So, it's like, okay, well, within the next month, I have to accomplish, let's say my goal is to have 100,000 people on my list by, 2020, right? And I break that goal down to, by the end of the year, I need to have 5,000 people on my list, right? So then this month, how many people do I need to get on my list? It's like, let's say it's, 250 per month or whatever, right? At that point, it's like, okay, then I need to figure out what do I need to do this week to achieve that goal. And then at the end of the week, you do a weekly review and you say, well, what were the 3 things I said I was going to get done this week? Did I get them done? Yes or no? And if I did get them done, write down, what contributed to the success. If I didn't get it done, why not? And it's not necessarily beating yourself up and saying, well, I didn't get it done because I'm not good enough. It's like finding out the psychological reasons. Like, was it because that goal was actually unattainable for that week? Like, it was too lofty? Was it because I didn't prioritize it for another reason? Was it because I just didn't have the time, or I got distracted and my life got disrupted for all these other reasons? But just doing that weekly check-in and saying, what are the 3 things I'm going to do next week that are moving me towards this month's goals? That was huge for me, because then, I'm thinking, well, I'm planning for the week. What am I going to get done this week? I don't have to start brainstorming. I've already done that thought work and realized, okay, yeah, well, clearly I'm moving towards these larger goals. So let me just take a chunk of that and work on it for this week or for this month. And, doing that, it also always gives you a place to kind of fall back on when you think, well, what should I be working on next?
Yeah, great. I think we have time for one more, if you have it.
This is actually something that you recommended to me, which has been really effective. And I'd love to get your input on this as well. But it's, theming your days, right? Like when I first started out as a freelancer, someone had said, always give like the first hour of your day to your marketing. And there's a lot of value in that statement. But what I was finding was I wasn't getting a whole lot done with that approach. And I just decided to make like Tuesdays my marketing day. So then I got a whole day to get a run at it rather than like 1 hour each morning, which involved a lot of ramp up. And then, if I got distracted or something came in, that entire hour was gone. Yeah. So getting to spend like a whole day or even a half a day, a block of time on a specific project or task, produced much higher results for me than, just doing like 1 hour each day for over the course of the week.
I've tried unsuccessfully to theme my days, I'll admit. I think it's a great concept. I learned it from Todd Herman, who has a thing called the 90-day year, which I haven't been through, but I'm sure is a great program because Todd's a master at this stuff. He consults, billionaire business owners and high-level athletes and everything. So I'm glad to know that that's working for you, and I'm gonna give that another push because I think it's brilliant. And I know that high-level CEOs. There's one guy who is the CEO of 2 of his own companies, and we're talking about NASDAQ traded companies here. And the only way he can do it is to theme his days. So, one day's tech day, and he just anything to do with tech, he knows that that's going to be talked about and handled on Tuesday, right? All the finances are happening on Wednesday. Marketing is Monday. It makes sense. But again, these things take a lot of discipline to break out of the habits that we've all developed just before we knew how busy we'd get someday.
Yeah.
So you gotta kick over your anthill and start rebuilding in some ways to make this happen. So, all right.
One just final thought on that is like one way I've applied that as well, and I think you've mentioned this as well, is making whether it's your morning or evenings or your most productive part, like make that your part of the day where work gets done, rather than like accepting calls and meetings all the way throughout the day. Decide, do I want to take my calls and meetings in the morning or the evening? And then just, blocking out the rest of the day for actual work getting done, right? Because there's nothing more disruptive than being in the middle of knocking things out. And then you're like, oh, yeah, I have that 3 o'clock with this person that, I have to take.
Yeah, absolutely. Find your most productive time of the day and own it. Awesome. All right, Ross, really appreciate this. Jonathan, I think that's a wrap. I know we're right at our time limit here, so another fantastic episode in the books.
All right, that's a wrap. Thank you, Ross. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Cheese, for tuning in, and we will be back inside your ears next time. You've been listening to Copy Chief Radio. Thank you for tuning in. If you're digging what we are laying down for you, then your next step is to go over to iTunes, type in Copy Chief Radio into the search bar, and when you find a show, subscribe. We will be back in your earbuds next week.
This is thepodcastfactory.com.